On a rare, peaceful weekend afternoon, Donald Trump made an uncharacteristic decision. He set aside the unrelenting pressures of his daily life, the constant demands of meetings, appearances, and responsibilities, and chose instead to seek solace in simplicity. The destination for this quiet retreat was a sprawling suburban park, an oasis of tranquility far removed from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was a place he had heard of, but never had the chance to visit, known for its towering green trees, gentle trails, and air so fresh it seemed to breathe life back into anyone who walked its paths. For this escape, Trump left behind the polished image the world was accustomed to. No tailored suits, no ties, no shining shoes. Instead, he dressed down in a plain long-sleeved shirt, khaki pants that prioritized comfort over formality, and a modest baseball cap. The cap, pulled low over his face, was a deliberate choice, not to hide, but to blend. He sought anonymity, hoping to experience the park as just another visitor, free from the spotlight that seemed to follow him everywhere. As he entered the park, he was greeted by the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. The air was cooler than he expected, carrying with it the earthy aroma of freshly fallen leaves mingling with the scent of grass warmed by the afternoon sun. His footsteps were slow, deliberate, crunching softly against the carpet of golden and auburn leaves scattered along the trail. He had no destination in mind, no schedule to adhere to. For once, his time was his own, and he allowed his thoughts to wander freely. The winding path led him deeper into the heart of the park, where the towering trees formed a canopy that filtered the sunlight into delicate rays, casting playful patterns on the ground. Birds chirped melodiously from hidden perches, their song interspersed with the occasional rustle of squirrels darting through the underbrush. It was the kind of harmony he rarely encountered in his usual world of boardrooms and bustling cities. Trump paused near a small wooden bridge that arched over a narrow stream. The water below moved lazily, reflecting the dappled light and the sky above. He leaned against the railing, listening to the soothing sound of water trickling over smooth stones. The serenity of the moment was almost foreign, yet welcome. It reminded him of a time long ago, before his name carried the weight of fame and power, when such simple pleasures were enough to calm a restless heart. A jogger passed by, offering a quick nod, clearly unaware of who he had just passed. Trump found himself smiling faintly. The anonymity he had hoped for was holding, and it felt strangely liberating. Continuing his walk, he noticed a small clearing ahead, where sunlight spilled freely onto a wooden bench nestled under an old oak tree. The bench seemed to beckon him, and he accepted the invitation, sitting down with a sigh of quiet relief. From his spot, Trump observed the life of the park around him, a couple strolling hand in hand, a child chasing after an enthusiastic golden retriever, an elderly man quietly feeding breadcrumbs to a group of pigeons. Each moment was simple, yet full of life, reminding him of the beauty that existed in the ordinary, the beauty that was often overshadowed by the extraordinary expectations of his own life. It was here, in this moment of stillness, that he felt a lightness he hadn't felt in years. The weight of his responsibilities, the constant noise of the world demanding his attention, all seemed to fade into the background. For the first time in what felt like forever, he allowed himself to simply be just a man on a bench, basking in the quiet charm of an afternoon well spent. In a secluded corner of the park, where the towering trees provided a canopy of shade and muffled the distant hum of the world beyond, Trump's attention was drawn to a quiet figure, sitting on an old wooden bench, partially hidden beneath the sprawling branches of a massive oak tree. Was a boy. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old, with tousled hair that looked like it hadn't been combed in a while, and a faded t-shirt that had clearly seen better days. His posture was slightly hunched, completely absorbed in the sketchbook resting on his lap. Trump, always observant, took a moment to study the boy from a distance. The child's hands moved with precision, gripping a short colored pencil that seemed to have been used to its last possible inch. Beside him sat a worn-out box of colored pencils, some so small they barely peeked out of the box. The sketchbook's edges were frayed, its cover marked by smudges and scratches that spoke of countless hours of use. It was clear this boy had poured a lot of time and care into his art. Curiosity got the better of Trump, and he took a few steps closer, careful not to startle the boy. As he approached, the scene on the page began to take shape in his eyes. The drawing, though incomplete, was vibrant and full of life. A bright blue sky dominated the page, with fluffy white clouds that seemed to float effortlessly. The colors were bold and hopeful, yet there was a tender simplicity in the strokes that made the image feel deeply personal. "What are you drawing?" Trump asked, his voice low and gentle, carrying a tone of genuine curiosity rather than authority. "It looks beautiful." The boy looked up slowly, his pencil pausing mid-stroke. His wide eyes, a mixture of surprise and shyness, scanned the face of the man standing before him. Trump could see the faint traces of uncertainty in the boy's expression, as though he were unsure whether to respond. But there was no fear, only a quiet hesitation. After a brief pause, the boy finally spoke, his voice soft and measured, as though he were revealing a secret. "I'm trying to draw heaven," he said, glancing back down at his sketch. "I think my parents are there." The words hung in the air, simple yet profoundly moving. Trump felt his breath catch for a moment as the weight of the boy's statement settled in. He glanced again at the sketch, now understanding the deeper meaning behind the vibrant colors and peaceful imagery. The boy's gaze returned to the page, his small hand gripping the colored pencil tightly, as if the act of drawing itself gave him a connection to something or someone far away. His shoulders were set, his focus unwavering, as though he couldn't afford to let his emotions break the delicate rhythm of his work. Trump stood there in silence for a moment, watching the boy's determined effort to bring his vision to life. It wasn't just a drawing, Trump realized. It was a bridge, a way for the boy to reach out to the parents he could no longer see. The simplicity of the scene, the boy's quiet perseverance, and the depth of meaning in his words struck a chord deep within Trump. It was as if he had stumbled upon a moment so raw and honest that it demanded nothing but understanding and respect. "What do you think heaven looks like?" Trump asked gently after a pause, his voice softer now, almost reverent. The boy hesitated, his pencil stopping briefly. He glanced up at Trump again, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know," he admitted quietly, "but I hope it's a place where they're happy. That's why I'm drawing it this way. I want it to be beautiful." Trump nodded, his gaze drifting to the sketch once more. The vibrant colors, the serene sky, the soft clouds, it all painted a picture of hope and love. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the only sound around them being the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. It was a silence not of emptiness, but of shared understanding, a quiet acknowledgement of the boy's longing and strength. Trump lowered himself slowly onto the bench, careful not to disturb the boy's quiet focus. His eyes lingered on the drawing, taking in every thoughtful detail. The vibrant blue sky seemed to stretch endlessly across the page, broken only by the soft, cotton-like clouds floating effortlessly. The boy's strokes were deliberate yet tender, painting a scene so tranquil it felt like it belonged in the purest of dreams, untouched by sorrow or pain. For a moment, Trump didn't speak, letting the sound of the breeze rustling through the trees fill the silence between them. He could see how much care the boy had poured into the drawing, each line and shade carrying a weight of meaning beyond what words could convey. Finally, after a thoughtful pause, Trump broke the silence with a gentle question. Do you think heaven looks like this drawing? The boy froze for a moment, his pencil hovering just above the paper. His eyes flickered with a brief glimmer of confidence, as though the question had validated the vision he'd been so painstakingly bringing to life. Slowly, he gave a small nod, but his expression quickly shifted. A shadow of hesitation crossed his face, and his grip on the pencil tightened slightly, as though he were bracing himself for something he wasn't sure he could say. Trump waited, sensing that the boy had something more to share. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of pause that carried unspoken thoughts, heavy yet delicate. Finally, the boy looked up, his gaze meeting Trump's with a mix of vulnerability and quiet courage. What do you think heaven looks like? The boy asked, his voice soft but filled with emotion. I've never seen it, but I hope it's a place where my parents are happy. The question hung in the air, simple yet profound. The boy's words, though spoken with the innocence of a child, carried the weight of a loss far beyond his years. They felt like a soft breeze passing through the trees, gentle but carrying with it a sense of longing that was impossible to ignore. Trump's gaze softened as he studied the boy's face. The raw honesty in those words touched something deep within him, a part of his soul that wasn't often stirred. He realized that the boy wasn't just asking about heaven. He was searching for reassurance, for a sense of connection to the parents he had lost. For a moment, Trump didn't respond. He let the boy's question settle, recognizing the depth of what had just been shared. It wasn't a moment that called for answers or explanations. It was a moment that needed understanding, the kind of quiet empathy that spoke louder than words. He glanced back at the drawing, the vibrant colors now taking on a new meaning. The peaceful sky, the soft clouds. It was more than just a scene on paper. It was the boy's hope, his attempt to create a place where love and happiness could exist without boundaries. Trump felt a deep respect for the child's quiet strength, for the way he had found a way to express something so profound through his art. As the boy waited for his response, Trump knew that whatever he said next had to come from the heart. This wasn't a moment for platitudes or empty reassurances. It was a moment that demanded sincerity, a chance to honor the boy's courage in voicing what so many would have kept hidden. Trump's smile deepened as he gazed at Ethan's drawing, the boy's vivid strokes painting a vision that seemed to capture something pure and hopeful. For a moment, he let his eyes linger on the bright blue sky and the soft, fluffy clouds. Then, with a gentle warmth in his voice, he began to speak, each word chosen carefully, as if he understood the weight of what Ethan was trying to express. I believe heaven is a place far beyond anything we can imagine, Trump said, his tone steady yet comforting. It's not just a place of light, but a light that comes from something greater than the sun, a light born from love itself. It's a kind of light that doesn't just brighten the world around you, but makes you feel safe, warm, and happy deep in your soul. He paused, glancing again at the drawing, and let out a soft breath, as though he could almost picture the scene himself, pointing to the delicate white clouds in Ethan's sketch. He continued, his voice taking on a more reflective tone. In heaven, the trees are greener than anything we've ever seen here on Earth, lush, vibrant, and full of life. Flowers bloom in ways that defy our imagination, their colors so vivid and unique. No one could ever recreate them. The air carries a fragrance that's gentle and sweet, as if every breeze is telling a story. And the sounds? They're not just peaceful, they're filled with laughter and joy, a kind of happiness that's never interrupted. Trump's words seemed to hang in the air, settling into the quiet between them like a soft blanket. He let the boy absorb what he was saying before he turned to him directly. His tone shifted, softer now, as if he were speaking to Ethan's heart rather than his ears. If your parents are there, Trump said, his gaze steady and kind. I believe they are smiling at you every single day. They see what you're doing, and they're proud of you, proud of your strength, your kindness, and your ability to find beauty even in hard times. Heaven is a place where the people we love never truly leave us. They're just in a better place, waiting for the day when we'll be together again. Ethan sat silently, his small hands resting on the edges of his drawing. His eyes shimmered as though he could see the world Trump had just described. Not in the abstract, but vividly, as if it were real and within reach. The boy didn't speak, but the way his shoulders relaxed and his gaze softened said more than words ever could. In his mind, Trump's words began to transform his drawing. The colors felt brighter, the clouds softer, the sky more endless. It wasn't just a picture anymore. It was a place, alive with love and hope. A paradise that connected him to something far greater than himself. For the first time in what felt like forever, Ethan allowed himself to believe that such a place could exist. And that maybe, just maybe, his parents were there, watching him with pride and love. The air between them remained quiet, but it wasn't an empty silence. It was the kind of silence that held understanding, a shared moment of connection that didn't need further explanation. Trump leaned back slightly, still watching Ethan, feeling a quiet sense of purpose settle over him. He hadn't planned for this encounter, but somehow, it felt like it was meant to happen. Ethan lowered his head, the pencil in his small hand hovering just above the sketchbook. His voice, when it came, was soft and trembling, as though he were struggling to contain a sadness too heavy for someone so young. I wish I could go there, he whispered, his words barely audible, to see my parents again, but I don't know how they can see me from heaven. Trump's expression softened, his brows knitting together as the weight of the boy's sorrow settled over him. There was a raw honesty in Ethan's words that struck deep. The simplicity of his longing made the loss he carried all the more poignant. Trump let out a quiet breath, steadying himself before reaching out to place a gentle hand on the boy's small shoulder. Ethan, Trump began, his voice steady yet warm, as though he were speaking directly to the boy's heart. You don't need to do anything special for your parents to see you. Just live your life well. Be the kind of person they always dreamed you'd become. Believe me, every picture you draw, every kind word you speak, every smile you share, they see it all, and it makes them proud. Ethan slowly lifted his head, his wide eyes meeting Trump's. The sadness in them hadn't disappeared, but there was something new now, a faint flicker of hope. Trump continued, his tone even softer, as if reassuring a fragile spirit. In heaven, they never stop watching over you. They're always with you, even when you don't realize it. And they're proud of you, Ethan, every single day. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The boy's shoulders, tense just moments before, seemed to relax slightly, as though the words had eased a burden he hadn't known how to carry. His gaze drifted back to his drawing, and he gripped the pencil again, not with despair, but with quiet determination. After a few beats of silence, Trump asked gently, "Do you live here, near the park?" Ethan nodded, glancing up briefly before returning his focus to his sketch. "I live with my grandma," he said, his voice steady but tinged with resignation. "She takes care of me, but it's hard for her. She's old, and well, we don't have a lot, but she tries her best." Trump listened intently, leaning in slightly to catch every word. He didn't interrupt, letting Ethan share his story at his own pace. "We live in a small house," Ethan continued. "It's not too far from here. Sometimes I try to help, but there's not much I can do. I come here to draw because it's quiet, and it makes me feel closer to them." He gestured to his drawing, the faintest smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I think they'd like this." Trump remained quiet for a moment, his thoughts heavy with the boy's words. The resilience in Ethan's voice, paired with the weight of his circumstances, was both heartbreaking and inspiring. He felt a stirring of something he hadn't felt in a long time, a deep, almost instinctive need to do something. As Ethan returned to his drawing, Trump discreetly took in the details: the boy's tattered clothes, the worn-out art supplies, the way he clung to his dreams despite the odds stacked against him. Without saying a word, Trump made a silent resolution. This encounter, he knew, couldn't simply end here. Before leaving, Trump asked a few more questions, careful not to draw too much attention to his intent. He learned enough to know what needed to be done. Quietly, he committed the details to memory, ensuring Ethan wouldn't notice. That evening, long after he had left the park, Trump sat in his office, replaying the conversation in his mind. The boy's words, his drawing, his quiet resilience, all of it stayed with him. Picking up the phone, he began making calls, reaching out to the people and organizations he trusted to help. Trump didn't stop there. He arranged for something personal, something that would show Ethan he wasn't alone. A brand new set of high-quality art supplies was carefully packaged, along with a simple yet heartfelt note: "Live well and keep drawing. Ethan, sometimes we don't need to look up at heaven, because heaven is created when we make this world a better place." The gesture wasn't grand or public, it was private, meant only for Ethan. For Trump, this wasn't about recognition. It was about ensuring that the boy who sat quietly on that old park bench, drawing his vision of heaven, would have the tools and support to keep dreaming and creating. As Trump prepared to leave, he stopped once more, his gaze lingering on Ethan's drawing. The boy, still engrossed in adding the final touches to his vision of heaven, looked up when he sensed Trump's presence. Trump offered him a warm, genuine smile, one that seemed to carry both encouragement and admiration. "I really like your painting," Trump said, his voice gentle but filled with sincerity. "You'll keep drawing, won't you?" Ethan met his eyes, a flicker of surprise flashing across his face before it was replaced by something stronger: determination. He nodded, the movement small but resolute, and replied softly, though his words carried a weight that belied his age, "I'll keep drawing. I want my parents to see and know that I always remember them." The simplicity of this statement struck Trump. He didn't respond right away, allowing the moment to breathe. When he finally nodded back, it was with quiet understanding. He didn't need to say anything else. The connection between them didn't require words. As Trump walked away, his steps slower than before, he couldn't shake the image of the boy on the bench, pencil in hand, pouring his heart onto the page. The weight of their encounter sat heavy in his chest, but it wasn't an unpleasant feeling. It was a call to action, a reminder that some moments were too significant to leave behind as mere memories. Later that evening, in the quiet of his home, Trump found himself replaying the conversation with Ethan. The boy's words, his quiet resilience, and the hope he held onto despite his circumstances had left an indelible mark. Trump didn't hesitate. Picking up his phone, he began making calls, reaching out to people who could help. Over the following days, he worked discreetly but tirelessly, ensuring Ethan and his grandmother would receive the support they needed. Financial assistance was arranged, but Trump knew that wasn't enough. He wanted Ethan to have more than just stability. He wanted the boy to have the tools and encouragement to pursue his dreams. A brand new set of professional art supplies was ordered, carefully selected to suit a budding artist. Along with it came a handwritten note, simple yet meaningful: "Keep drawing, Ethan. The most beautiful heaven is when we make this world a better place. A friend." But Trump's efforts didn't stop there. He made arrangements for Ethan to join a special program for talented children who faced challenges in their lives. It was a place where Ethan could grow not just as an artist but also as a person, surrounded by mentors who could nurture his potential and peers who shared his love for creativity. When the package and invitation arrived, Ethan was stunned. He carefully opened the box, his small hands trembling slightly as he lifted out the vibrant pencils, smooth papers, and an array of tools he had never even dreamed of owning. The note was tucked neatly on top, and as he read the words, a smile spread across his face, a smile filled with gratitude and a newfound sense of possibility. The boy who once sat alone on a park bench, sketching his vision of heaven, was now stepping into a new chapter of his life. The tools in his hands weren't just for drawing. They were symbols of hope, of belief, of the understanding that someone out there cared about him and his dreams. Ethan returned to his drawing with a renewed sense of purpose, each stroke of his pencil now carrying a little more confidence. And somewhere, the man who had paused to sit beside him on that quiet afternoon in the park felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that he had helped to light a spark that could guide Ethan toward a brighter future. For Trump, the encounter wasn't about charity, it was about connection, about seeing potential and helping it flourish. And for Ethan, it wasn't just about receiving help, it was about feeling seen, valued, and capable of creating a world that was as beautiful as the one he imagined in his drawings. In life, it's often the smallest, most seemingly insignificant things we do that can ripple outward and create a profound impact in someone else's life. A kind word, a helping hand, or even just taking the time to listen. These little acts of humanity have the power to change the course of a person's journey. Live with kindness as your compass. Share with others even when it feels like you have little to give. And above all, never stop dreaming. Dreams, no matter how fragile or distant they may seem, are the sparks that light the way to a brighter, better world. Every drawing by Ethan, every brushstroke of hope he brings to life, is a part of something much bigger than a piece of paper. It's a piece of heaven, a place not defined by physical boundaries but by the boundless connection of love, hope, and compassion that ties us all together. It's the reminder that even when we feel lost or alone, we are all part of a story that's greater than ourselves. Let us all strive to find light, even in our darkest hours. Let us hold on to hope when the world feels heavy and uncertain. And let us paint our own beautiful dreams through art, words, or actions, so that together, we can create a world where kindness and love prevail. Heaven isn't just a faraway concept, it's something we can build right here and now, one small act of goodness at a time. If this story touched your heart or inspired you in some way, I encourage you to share that feeling with others. Leave a like if you believe in the power of kindness. Comment below to share your thoughts. Your words might inspire someone else to look for the light in their own life. And if you want to see more stories like Ethan's, hit the subscribe button to join a community dedicated to spreading hope, love, and compassion to every corner of the world. Together, we can create the kind of world we all dream of, a heaven on earth. If this story touched your heart, don't let it stop here. The world needs more stories like Ethan's, stories that remind us of the incredible power of kindness, hope, and compassion. Together, we can build a community that uplifts one another and inspires real change, one small action at a time. By simply leaving a like, you're helping to amplify this message of love and humanity. It may seem like a small gesture, but it can make a big difference in ensuring stories like this reach those who need a little light in their lives. Take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us how this story resonated with you, or share your own experiences of kindness and hope. Your words could inspire someone else to look for beauty and goodness in their own world. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll join a growing community committed to sharing stories that matter, stories that remind us of the good in humanity. Let's work together to make the world a better place. Because sometimes, all it takes is a small spark to light up the darkest corners. Let's be that spark for each other.